see you. There you go.
We're on. We're
Hi,
on live now.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
And tonight, everybody, we're going to be doing about persecution and torture. In particular, the Pendle witch trials, and we're touching on the Witchfinder General. Now, first of all, I've been well into this Pendle witches for years. Never ever managed to get there. Never ever managed to get up there. I'll have to get there one day, just to have a good look round. But I was doing a bit of studying about this, and this all started with the laws in 1562. I'll go through a few facts. I don't want to bore you too much. Elizabeth I passed a law in the form of an act against, conjurations, enchantments, and witchcraft. This demanded the death penalty, but only where harm had been caused. Lesser offences were punishable by a term of imprisonment. The Act provided that anybody who should use, practice, or exercise any witchcraft, enchantment, charm, or sorcery, whereby any person should have to be killed, destroyed, was guilty of a felony without the benefit of a clergy and was put to death. Then, when she died, James I succeeded to the throne. And he made a law enacting the death penalty in cases where it was proven that harm had been caused through the use of magic or corpses had been exhumed for magical purposes. Well, that's a bit sick, isn't it? You know, you can understand that. You can understand it. Hi, Eve. Hi,
hello,
Mark.
Jacqueline. Hello, Mark. Hello, Eve.
Right. So, really, this all started. It started slightly in the Pendle area. So, in 1612, Roger Nowell of Reed Hall was a JP for Pendle. And he sought out religious non-conformists. It's a good job he's not here now, isn't it? People who refused to attend the English church and take communion, which was a criminal offence. That's why we were all forced to go when we were kids, isn't it? We were.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Women got to go and do what you're told.
So in March 1612, Nowell investigated a complaint made to him by the family of John Law, who was a peddler. He claimed to have been injured by witchcraft. It was an accepted part of village life, witchcraft, and that there were healers who practiced magic, probably in return for payment. They were known as witches, and such men and women were common in the 16th century. But, now this is where it gets interesting. They've got you every way. They've got it's the same now, really, isn't it? In these days, the government's got you every way. Right, confessing to being a witch could result in burning.
Yeah.
Not confessing to being a witch could result in being tortured until you said you are a witch. Then burned.
Not lose, isn't it? You think about it.
Other punishments included forced fasting, that means they starved you to death, exile, hanging, beheading, stoning, and gouging. And what gouging is, they stick you with knives and make big holes with you and, and stuff like that. Nice they were. Quite nice people, So, this is where it's really interesting. I love this story. Right, I went to Lancaster Prison maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I was working and I had a disabled person I took on holiday up in Morecambe, so we went there. We went to Lancaster Prison for a tour. It was really, really, really interesting.
Hello, Robbie.
Hi, Robbie. So here we get into the story now. Right, in 1612, a woman in a courtroom accused of killing 3 men through witchcraft. She is presented with a confession, which she denies. Then a girl is brought to testify against her. The girl bursts into tears and the woman screams at her desperately, and the woman is removed back to the dungeons. Once the girl has her audience, she jumps onto a table and calmly denounces the woman as a witch. Now, she was the woman's own daughter and she was 9 years old. Now, this girl's called Janet Device. Janet was the odd one out in the family. She had a different father than the others. I think she felt left out, basically, at the time. But she ended up being the key witness in the trial that would lead to the execution of 10 people, including all the members of her own family. So she had all the family killed. All 12 accused of witchcraft lived in the area surrounding Pendle Hill in Lancashire. Have you ever been there, Annette?
I've been past it, but I've never actually been up to it.
Yeah, I've never been there, but I've seen it as I've gone past. Yeah.
I would like to go and have a look.
Yes, I'd like to. We'll have to do that one day. We'll get a little group together and we'll go up there. Go in the day, can't we? Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, in Lancashire, and charged with the murders of 10 people by the use of witchcraft. 8 were tried at Lancaster Assizes on the 18th and the 19th of August, 1612, along with the Sam Lesbury witches, who I've never heard of, right? But they were there. They were there in the dungeon at Lancaster, and others in a series of trials that have become known as the Lancashire Witch Trials. One was tried at York Assizes on the 27th of July, 1612, and another died in prison. Of the 11 who went to trial, 9 women and 2 men, 10 were found guilty and executed by hanging, and 1 found not guilty. Alison Devise, that's Janet's sister, right, confessed to Roger Noel, the JP, that she had caused John Law, the peddler, to be ill. She had cursed him because he ignored her when she asked him for some pins. So as he was going past and she asked him for pins, he just ignored her. So she put a spell on him, right? Anyway, in fact, most probably he'd had a stroke because all his left side had gone. Everything that had happened to him, what they documented was that he'd actually had a stroke. But she thought, right, that she'd actually cursed him and caused him to drop. And then Alison felt so guilty about it, she confessed to using witchcraft. You just wouldn't do that, would you? You just wouldn't.
No, not when you knew what was coming.
Yeah. So Alison accused her grandmother and 2 neighbours of being witches as well. Yeah. So Roger Noel began arresting the suspects named by Alison on the 2nd of April. So Alison Devise, her grandmother, Old Demdike.
Yeah.
That was Elizabeth Demdike, the old Demdike. Their neighbour, Old Chattock, and her daughter, Anne Redfern, were taken to Lancaster Castle prison and were kept in the bottom of the tower in the dungeon. It's known as the Witch's Tower. Now, when I went there with this person I was looking after, I went past that and I was drawn to. I've never been there before. It was just a day out to us, and I was drawn to that. So they were having building done on that ground. They were fixing something. So all of that was closed off. And I said to this builder, I said, "What's them?" He said, "It's a Witch's Tower." So I was drawn there straight away. I just knew. I always pick up on witches, crackers, isn't it? Oh, I don't know why. Look. So they were all accused and they were all interrogated. So 8 further suspects, including all of Alison's family, joined them in the tower. Altogether, there were 12 suspected witches in the tower, along with another 8 prisoners who were unrelated to the witch trial, and they were all in the small dungeon together. They were kept there for 4 months. 2 were in their 80s. They were just ordinary people who'd been accused of witchcraft. So Roger Nowell was now heading a high-profile case which he could make his career out of if he got these convictions. All Nowell had was accusations and counter-accusations. So they were all pointing the finger and saying, he done it. So what he needed was proof. So the day of the trial, the judge at the trial was Sir Edward Bromley. People poured into the courtroom to see the sensational trial. And you can imagine, you can just see it all happening. So Roger Nowell, the JP, was the prosecuting magistrate, and a guilty verdict could be a great boost for his career. Thomas Potts was the court clerk. Now, he wrote everything down, and he published the report and put it into an actual book. That's how good the case was. I'd love to have been there, actually, just to have listened to everything that had gone on there. Over the next 2 days, 19 people stood trial accused of using witchcraft to harm or to kill. There should have been 20, but Alison Devizes' grandmother, Old Demdike, had already died in a dungeon in the Witch's Tower. Alison Devise felt so much remorse for maiming the peddler that she didn't even try to defend herself. She was found guilty, so she must have really believed that her little curse had actually made him ill, and he must probably just had a stroke. The next to take the stand was Alison's mother, Elizabeth Devise. Elizabeth was accused of going to Malkin Tower and dining with people she knew to be witches. They were talking about killing the constable and blowing up Lancaster Castle. I'm gonna laugh, sorry.
Probably why they got it for doing that. More than anything.
Yeah. Elizabeth denied everything that they accused her of. The case was deadlocked between accusations and denial. But Roger Nowell, the JP and magistrate, had a secret weapon. Elizabeth Devise's own daughter, Janet Devise, who was 9 years old. She accused her mother of being a witch. Her mother began screaming and shouting at her daughter, so Elizabeth was taken back to the dungeon. Janet's confession was accepted and the fate of the witches was sealed. Janet named names. So this 9-year-old then came out with all these, everybody was quiet, and she came out with these names. So it was the wife of Hugh Hargraves, Christopher Howgate, Elizabeth, his wife, Dick Miles and his wife, Christopher Hikes of the Thorney Home and his wife, her brother, James Devise, had been a witch for 3 years, she said. Nobody knew why she confessed against the family. She most probably felt not part of it, or she most probably felt that they'd caused that much trouble that she knew that they were all going to get done for it. So they've most probably gave her a choice, we'll help you out if you give us some information.
Yeah.
But she sort of went,
really, they must have known that they didn't have a choice, did they? They didn't have a choice.
They didn't, poor buggers, no. So at the end of the two-day trial, 9 people were found guilty of witchcraft. Janet's entire family were convicted. Elizabeth Device's mother, James Device, Elizabeth Southerns, Acker Old Demdike, died in the Witches' Tower. Alison Device, her sister. So on the 20th of August, the day after the trial, the 10 convicted witches were taken to the Gallows Hill in Lancaster to be hanged. It was very gruesome, sorry. The drop wasn't high enough to break the necks. So they agonizingly died a slow strangulation. That must have been, oh my God, and I bet there was people just waiting for them, standing there, watching them, waiting for them to die. So 22 years later, Janet Device is listed in a trial in Lancaster in a group of 20 witches. She was the most probably convicted and died in jail. The Pendle Witches trials began 100 years of institutional murder in England, and the blame for that lies in King James because of the book that he wrote. So this caused hundreds of innocent people being sentenced to death.
Right, we have a few coming up as Facebook user. I don't have names, so I can't name who you are. Got someone asking.
I've got the name. Oh yeah, face.
How long will you be on for? I think that's Kelly. That we can only stay on till 9 o'clock tonight, Kelly. We've got to be off at 9. And we've got one. Mark Bennett. Out loud.
Right.
The laugh is giving it away.
I've got a book here which I bought at Lancaster Prison, right? And it's about the actual places where they lived, what happened. So I think she was taken in, might be wrong, I'm going to look up this, by that JP. I think she was brought up with him for a while and then she disappeared. I'm going to look into that because that's a very interesting question.
Yeah. Well, did you know Lancaster was second only to London for actually killing people? And they nicknamed it Hanging Town, it was called. Lancaster.
Was it?
Yeah, it was actually nicknamed Hanging Town. Secondly, only to London on the amount of people that...
Wow.
Yeah, it was...
Oh, yeah, there's a Facebook user from Australia. So
that's Kelly. Yeah, it's Kelly. All right, Kelly.
Right. So going on to the Witchfinder General later. So first of all, Janet Preston, who was part of the witches in the actual tower, was sent to trial at York. So he's the only one that went to York because where she lived in Gisborne was then in Yorkshire, in the boundary of Yorkshire. So she had to go for her trial to York. She was accused of murder by witchcraft of a local landowner, Thomas Lister of Westby Hall. And she was executed on the 29th of July, 1612, by hanging on the Knaves Mere, which is the present site of York Racecourse.
Yeah.
So all the others lived in Lancashire. So there was Alison Device, Elizabeth Device James, Anne Whittle, Anne Redfern, Alice Nutter, Catherine Hewitt, John Bullock, Jane Bullock, all hanged at the Gallows Hill in Lancaster. And the only one who wasn't guilty was Alice Gray. So I bet she behaved herself after that. There was no going around selling herbs.
No.
Almost
Definitely
everything.
don't know.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
almost everything that's known about the trials comes from a report of the proceedings written by Thomas Potts. I'm going to see if I can get hold of that or a copy of it.
And that was the idea behind it, wasn't it? Terrify people, women.
Yeah.
So you don't go out, you don't do this, you don't say anything.
But
You
then
sit there and
days,
watch
yeah,
your
then
told.
days, you think about it, nobody could afford a doctor because you had to pay. So they'd done their own medication. They'd done it for hundreds and hundreds of years out of herbs they grew and stuff like that. They treated people, they treated animals. They were midwives.
Exactly. Do you know what it was? It was that people, instead of going to the church, went to these women for help. That's what it was, and the church didn't like it.
Yeah.
I mean, because in the Bible it says women are supposed to be evil.
Yeah.
It says that women are evil, so therefore keep them down. Don't give them a voice. Don't allow them to do this. Don't allow them to do that. Persecute them and keep them under the thumb. That was the idea about all of it.
Yeah. Frightened.
Not that they were witches. The witch was just an excuse.
Yeah, of course it was.
Yeah.
Now this Witchfinder General guy, right? He was working.
Matthew Hopkins.
Yeah, that's the guy. He was just working in like local government. Anyway, he ended up with the job of getting women because he went out with his mate and he got all these people in the village to start naming people who they thought could have been a witch. And that's how it started. So he started getting paid.
Oh, yeah.
He was getting paid for the more people he got hung, the more people and the more money he made. So he was making it up half the time. So he was making it fortune.
It says it in the Matthew Hopkins overheard a group of women discussing a meeting with the devil in March 1644 in Manningtree near Colchester. However, it is more likely that he was interested in the money. At the time, the country was very troubled, civil war, religious differences, superstition, and fear all helped Hopkins carry out his witch hunts with no opposition, basically. He got away with all of it.
Yeah,
he did. What he liked.
But him and his mate, his sidekick, that John Stern, sent more accused people to the gallows than all the other witch hunters in England of the previous 160 years. It's all about greed, all about on the make, man. Nothing else has changed, really, has it, when it comes to that?
I think he rocked up about 200. About 200. Yeah.
So they had methods of investigation. And one was sleep deprivation. The other one was the swimming test. So they tied a woman or a man, whoever they accused, to a chair.
Looking
Put
through,
them in the water. If they drowned, they were a witch. If they didn't drown, they were a witch. Because the magic stopped them from drowning. So then they burned them. So then what they did, they looked for devil's marks. So they used to shave everybody if they couldn't find anything, and they'd look for like a mole or extra nipples or something.
They're bound to find something. They picked on something that everyone has, don't they?
Yeah.
Just to make it easy for themselves. Yeah.
So then they had witch prickers. Who were pricked with knives and special needles. And if they bled, they were witches.
You were a witch? Oh, dear.
So not confessing to being a witch could result in torture until you said you are a witch. And then you'd be burnt.
And for all those that he did, he got paid for.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Total earnings may have been as much as £1,000 in those days, which was a very large sum.
That's a lot of money, yeah.
And get this, Lynn. He also sold witch boxes that were supposed to protect the owners from witches' spells. You
Find out what was in it. I'll start making some. I'm going to production. So other punishments, including forced fasting, so they starved them to death, exile hanging, beheading, stoning, and gouging. So that's what I've got quickly for what we've got here. But it's all about, we all know people. I make things myself, I make things out of herbs in the garden. For me, I don't give it to, but it's all about preserving. I do preserving. I preserve foods, and I grow my own stuff.
Yeah.
And it's all about keeping yourself healthy. They say
Which are they trying to do?
Nothing more healthier than growing fresh stuff, fresh herbs and everything else. It's just ridiculous what they had in their heads to what was actually going on. And I bet you, behind the scenes, they were going to people like them to get their medication.
Yeah. It's all about keeping women down. It's just persecution.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
yeah.
All it was. They were frightened to death of women having a voice or being able to do anything. Even not better than men, equal to. You weren't allowed to be equal.
No, it's true.
Women were meant to just stay there, say nothing, don't come out, don't do nothing. Absolutely. We'd have been knackered, Lynn. Absolutely. My Facebook post would have had me carted off straight away.
I'd be stoned in the street, me. Definitely.
Well, you know what, Lynn? That still goes on today. Some things still go on today.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? In certain countries, it does.
Yeah.
And that's quite scary, that. You think about being battered in the head with a big stone and you've got hundreds of them being thrown at you. You've got no chance, have you?
Yeah. No, absolutely not. No, some of the torture stuff that they used on where it was absolutely unbelievable. Unbelievable.
They used to, what was that thing called? They used to put your hand in 2 pieces of wood and crush your thumbs. And another one, they'd wrap rope around your head and pull the rope until your skull broke.
It was absolutely terrible. Some of the stuff. Like I said, it was all orchestrated to break women's spirits. That's all it was.
Yeah, I think so.
Keep them submissive to men.
Absolutely. Yeah, so it's not stopped us,
some of the devices that they used it's just basically to humiliate women.
Yeah, put people
to humiliate because if it's done in front of a load of people, there's no way that half of them are going to go and do that again. Obviously, is it?
Yeah, it's frightening them. It's psychological blackmail. That's what it is. There's a story up here, up at the top of Flint. And there was a woman there. She used to make herbal remedies for people and animals. So I'm not sure if I got the whole story right because I can't quite remember it. But I remember talking about it a few years ago. This lord, or somebody very important, that lived in Carnarvon, he had some bad cattle. So he went there and asked her if she could come to the house and make this remedy up. So when she was there, something about one of his bit of jewelry went missing. So then they dropped dead. I think the cattle dropped dead after they put the stuff on it. So they went and searched the house and they found this piece of jewelry. I think what they've done there, the cows died. It would have been ill anyway. So the cows died. He's put this cream on before the cows died. So to get back at the woman, he's accused her of stealing.
Yeah.
So they set her up. She never really stole it. They went there, found it, and it was probably in the pocket. And then they accused her of witchcraft, and she got hung.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Well, that was, yeah, well, you see, for a lot of supposed crimes that woman's done, they were burned. They were
Yeah.
actually burned for it.
Yeah. What they used
Not
to do, a lot of the people who were being burned, what they done, is it garroted, where they put like a lump there with the rope and they tighten it up at the back. Break.
Yeah, that was later on, Lynn, after when it was being done in these places where like the posh people didn't live, it was fine.
Yeah.
It's when they had to see it that they started to do that.
So that they were dead before they burnt, and there was no screaming.
Yeah, that's when they started to do that to grot them. But there was some cases where they couldn't get to him, and they just burned.
Awful.
But the actual when they first started out, that it was just burning.
Yeah.
They were just left to burn.
Apparently, when they burnt somebody, the smell of the fat of the body burning stuck on the clothes, and everybody was stinking of this death. They were smelling of it until they actually washed the stuff, which wouldn't have been very often, would it, when you think about it?
It was actually two of the wives of Henry VIII. They were actually should have been burned, but he changed it. He changed it so they didn't have to suffer that.
Yeah.
But the actual ruling at that time was burning.
Yeah, it just goes to show they can do anything they want, can't they?
Yeah, to save him the suffering. He had him beheaded.
Yeah.
But I mean, some of
was it Amber Lynn? Amber Lynn, they sent for the best swordsman from France.
Yeah.
Who was renowned for taking somebody's head off in one blow. Because most of the guys who were cutting your head off had to chop at it. It's just awful.
Yeah.
It's not like a guillotine.
I think that's because they sent, I can't remember what his name was when they sent him to the chopping block, and it took free chops to remove it.
Oh, who was that? Oh, I know about this. I do know about this. Anybody know who it is? You can put your comments on there. It was somebody. Was it Lord Walmsley or somebody like that?
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was him.
Yeah.
We've got on his Facebook user. Good evening, girls. I don't know who that is, but
no, I don't know.
It's not coming up with anyone's name.
You could put whoever it is, or she. You could put your name on if you want. So we want to know where the child lived, don't we? So I'm going to get that. Well, that's true. Good way of getting rid of people you don't like, make up lies and guilty. That's it. Well, people still do that today, don't they?
They do. Oh, we've got some. This one. Oh God, Lynn, it's a good job. We weren't born in them days.
Years ago,
one of the devices that they used, and this is the medieval days, the easiest way to get the wives to stop constantly nagging him was to put her in a skull's bridle. Skull refers to a woman accused of gossiping or simply complaining too much. In those times, gossiping feared to be work of the devil. First recorded use of the device, an iron mask locked over a woman's head, was in the 16th century. The bridle was iron mask locked over the head of the woman. Sometimes spikes would be extended into the mouth and placed over the tongue, making it impossible without immense pain. Love that. The woman was publicly humiliated as she was paraded through town wearing a bridle, while onlookers cursed and spat at her. We've got a picture of that, actually. Shall I show you?
Yeah, go on.
I'll show you. That's it. Can you see it? That's what they put on you, Lynn.
It's something you get from Ann Summers, isn't it?
Come on, love.
Hold on. I've got a stiff neck. It's too heavy.
Let me get the signs out tonight, love.
Oh, dear God. Imagine going like that. You'd smash your head in.
There's another one called the Shrew's Fiddle. The term shrew gained popularity in 17th century England, even loaning to its name from William Shakespeare's play Taming of the Shrew. A shrew, unlike a scold, was a boisterous and dominating woman who would not relegate herself to the role society assigned to her. A medieval German in Austria, if a shrew dared to fall out online, she might be met with the Shrew's Fiddle.
Oh.
I'm going to get rid of this. With a large opening for the neck and two small openings for the wrist, the Shrew's Fiddle locked its wearer's head in place and restrained and immobilized her arms, which were essentially handcuffed in front of her. Different variations of the Shrew's Fiddle, not necessarily reserved for women, have been attested in Denmark, Japan, Iran. Roman version was founded in Germany. And I'll show you the picture of that one. Is this what would happen to you?
Let's have a look. Oh, yeah. It's like those, the locks outside the prisons, isn't it? Like Derby Jail's got one outside theirs.
Yeah, the only good thing about this, the husband could keep you at home. Didn't have to take you out, did I?
Well, he'd be a bit disappointed when he couldn't get his tea cooked.
I bet he didn't realise that, did I?
Hi, Nigel. Oh, dear me.
There's another one called the drunkard's cloak. The drunkard's cloak was commonly used as a punishment for public drunkenness in 16th and 17th century England, although it was adapted for promiscuous women. The name of the drunkard's cloak provides a fairly rich image of its device, which is wooden barrel, an empty beer cask worn as a shirt with one hole for the neck, two holes for the arm. This incredibly heavy barrel was painful as well as humiliating. Its wearers were forced to parade through the streets of town, hearing insults. And there it is. Terrible, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, do you know what? They've got a drunk room in not far from me in Harden, and you wouldn't even know it was there. So as you're going through the village, it's on the left, and it's a little stone room, and it's a drunk room. So what they used to do with all the drunkards, if they found them shouting or anything in the little village, they'd take them and throw them in there for the night. And look, but it's still there. You know, you wouldn't know if you go past there, you wouldn't even think about it, but it's there. It's where
them are some of the less harsh things. I mean,
yeah.
there are some, Lynn, that are just unbelievable.
Yeah.
In fact, we'd have to do another show to show them, because it's quite
sick.
nasty. Yeah. Oh, there was something serious wrong with them then. The men then were sick in the head.
Yeah. Well, it was a male-dominated world, wasn't it? I mean, even in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and even 80s, you go, I don't know whether it's like that now, but if you go into a working men's club,
you could
women aren't allowed in a certain room, you know, and you've got to be
Victorian days, isn't it? I mean, all the husband had to say, his wife's a bit of a nutcase, you know, going through menopause or something like that. And they'd lock her away in the asylum.
Oh, yeah, they do.
Or he could say, well, I've had enough of that one. I'd rather have another wife, so I'll get rid of that one, and off she goes, off she pops.
That's how they do it, don't they? Make them out to be mentally ill and get them locked up for life.
Yeah, shut of them, yeah.
Yeah, they do. I think it still goes on.
How very dare you, men?
Still goes on to this day. It really does.
Oh, yeah. You must have heard him. I mean, I've heard him down the pub. Have you been out down the pub and heard him saying about how nutty the wives are and all the rest of it?
Oh, yeah.
Still do it. No? Only difference is now the lunatics don't come and arrest him.
I know. And I tell you what used to make me, I was just like, oh my God. Somebody used to phone up, right? And they'd say, is so-and-so in? And they're going.
I've seen that, yeah. Yeah.
And it's normally the wife, isn't it? Phoned up, are they there?
Oh, we've got Nigel. Hello, Nigel.
I know of 2 black witches in Canewdon in Essex. Andrew Woodley. Oh, Andrew Woodley's telling us this.
Right.
2 black witches in I've never heard of that place. Canewdon.
We'll have to look that up, won't we?
Yes, we will.
Or if somebody knows something, you could always come on with us.
Yeah, does anybody want to come on with us and have a chat? You're quite welcome. Let us know. And Annette will get you fixed up on here. Anybody like to come on?
Well, they don't want to do it this time. If they've got a subject that they want to do and they want to come on, you can always message us and me or you, and we'll sort it out.
Yeah, true. We'll do that. So I've got dressed up special for tonight with the witches, and there's me broom, and there's me little witchy poos there, and me little witchies there. They're Pendle witches there. So
I did Lynn, because last time I done it, because I can't see without my specs on, so I've taken my specs off. The only thing I'm doing is poking myself in the eyes. I have to get if I'm going to do that, I have to get my daughter-in-law to do it for me.
Oh.
Otherwise, I can't do it.
Yeah, I have to have a big, take these off. I've got to have a big mirror, make it big.
If I did it myself, I'd end up with a monobrow.
God, my brows don't grow anymore. I've exhausted them. I've been plucking my brows since I was 14. Got no roots left. There you go.
Well, I've been through menopause, so I thought mine might fall out, but they didn't. The pain.
Yeah, there's
everybody wanted on that.
Well, you're doing all right, and you are doing all right on this menopause. Not doing bad at all.
Yeah, I've been through it. I've done it now. Been
Yeah.
through it and got over it.
Yeah. Yeah, I got rid of mine about 9 years ago. 9 years ago.
Yeah.
Best thing that
Didn't
ever
even have to love
happened.
me. Almost.
Yeah, best thing that ever happened. It is a bad thing when you go through, and it's and I think a lot of the problems with that is your body's changing so much, and you're so sensitive. You're so sensitive with it as well, and you get to that point where you don't believe any of the bull that people are telling you. You just tell them straight. There's no break on your mouth, is there? You've got nothing to lose, so you go.
It comes out. It just flies out, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's why they say we're afraid.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, we've got about 8 minutes left because we've got to finish at 9 tonight. So.
Oh yeah.
What do you want? What are we going to be doing next time round? What do you fancy doing?
Well, we could do things about how people were treated, like cruelly. Do you know? Have you ever seen anything where if you were a sinner and they used to bury you with your head out the ground in the main streets? Have you ever seen that?
I've read stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah.
That's an interesting subject, you know.
Yeah. And like you said, if anyone wants to join us, then they can.
Yeah, quite welcome. I won't be dressed next time.
With 2 loony women.
Yeah. So I wonder why they can't get the name on there.
It's because when you come on, you've got to give StreamYard permission to use your name. And if you don't do it, it just comes up with Facebook user.
Right, okay. So Facebook users, remember that when you come onto it, you've got to give permission for StreamYard, and then your name will come up. So that'll be
because usually it comes along to the top and it actually says you need to give permission.
Yeah. Yeah, so that'll be interesting. So what are you going to be doing with yourself, Annette, the next week or so?
Oh, I'm back in work tomorrow, so I'll work 5 days and I've already got the weekend off.
Yeah.
And then it's back to, you just get over your aching bother. You do widow twanky all weekend. And then on a Monday morning, go and do it all again and make yourself even 10 times worse.
Yeah. Well, I'm off this week, so it's my weekend off now. I go back on the 2nd of April, where I will be joining Ghost Quest from Liverpool. Jamie Williams from Mill Street Barracks. We're going up to Girk Castle on a ghost investigation on the 31st of March. I'm also going to Anglesey this week with my sister. So we'll be going down there, having a nice little walk around and go to some of our favourite places there. So that's my holiday. The last of the year, start fresh from the 2nd of April. But that's
sounds good.
So when I'm down in Anglesey, there's a few little chapels there, you know, which are really, really interesting. So I need to call in there and get some information off them. Very odd. They're just like, they look like abandoned chapels on the side of the road that nobody bothers with, and you go in the middle of nowhere and you go to have a look, the door's open, you go in, and all of a sudden you've got the vicar there. They just appear from nowhere. It's crackers, it is. Right. Yeah, it is. It's crackers.
Right, we're gonna wrap it up, I think, for tonight.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
I'm back on with you in 2 weeks, aren't I? Because you'll only do it every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So say thank you for everybody coming tonight, and please come back again.
Yeah, and thank you, Annette. We had a good laugh again tonight and got a bit of information out. I might pop over to Ann Summers and get one of those masks.
Oh, yes, for one of them. You have to go to the weird shop. The weird. Right, we're going to say good night to everybody.
Yeah. Good night, everybody. Thank you for
Next time.
joining us.
Bye-bye.
Hope you
Bye-bye.
enjoyed it.